Hey, what's up? Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
And my name is Dyl. That is Arno, and we're going to continue this series we are doing here on the channel, revisiting Best Picture nominees. And today we have the Banshees of Inisherin. Arno, did I say that right?
No, it's Inisherin.
Great. See, that's why we bring him on, because he can correct me when I pronounce movies wrong. But Banshees...
It's better than what you guys were saying before, which is Inisherin.
Yeah.
Hey, we're improving. There we go. You know what else improved?
We had the emphasis on the wrong syllable there.
You know what else improved? My thoughts on this movie on a rewatch, because I watched this originally all the way back. I think it was the first week of November. It was fresh out of the Virginia Film Festival. I was like, you know what? Banshees came out. I got to watch it. I had just watched a lot of movies in the span of a short time. So I think I was kind of burnt out, because when I saw Banshees, I wasn't feeling it. I thought it was very overhyped, overrated. I found it immensely boring, no personal connection. But I rewatched it the other night, and to say I take all that back. This is a very good movie, very personal movie, very heartfelt movie. One I really like, and to me, the screenplay is the highlight. But to a lot of people, the highlight with this movie is the cast. I mean, they got SAG Ensemble, 4 acting Oscar nominations, and it's kind of hitting everything on the path so far. So I want to start things off with asking everyone's favorite standout in the roles, because for me, it's Barry Keoghan, which I know could be a hot take. But Matt, who's your favorite in Banshees?
It's got to be Colin Farrell for me. It really does. Now, before I get into Colin Farrell, I'll just say I felt on the opposite from you, because on the first time I watched this, I gave it a light 9 out of 10. This time, I'm giving it a decent 8 out of 10. I liked it a little bit less this time around. I dropped it down. It just didn't hit me the same way. I would actually say that, personally, this would be my least favorite Martin McDonagh film at this point. I think they're all great, but this is my least favorite of his works, including short films and plays. But still, the highlight of this movie for me, and the best lead acting performance of the year in my books, has to be Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell is incredible in this film. I think that what he does is absolutely exceptional. Just the sadness and the reflection he brings to this role is so brilliant. He plays the stupidity of the character really, really well without playing it up too much. And the kindness of the character, because really what it comes down to with this character is he might be dull, he might be a little bit stupid, but he's good and he's kind. And part of what ends up happening with Barry Keoghan's character later on has to do with the fact that he realizes that Pádraic might not actually be as kind as he originally thought. And part of the goodness of Pádraic has disappeared in this debacle that's going on. But Colin Farrell, absolutely my standout. I think he deserves to win lead actor, hands down. He should run away with that award. And he is... Honestly, I think he's what keeps the film at an 8 out of 10 instead of like a 7 out of 10 for me.
Interesting. So, Arno, what about you? Who's your favorite from this ensemble?
My favorite, I'm not going to pick somebody else. It's also Colin Farrell. He's absolutely... I'm picking both leads here. I'm picking Harris Dickinson and Colin Farrell. Look at me. And then Rooney Mara is my favorite from Women Talking. I'm all about the leads. But yeah, Colin Farrell... Talk about it, like just an incredible character to play. It's incredibly meaty to play a character who his whole personal identity and the way he views himself is completely shifts, and you see him transform into something you didn't think was him the whole time, and he does it with great grace and subtlety and subtlety, but with just a lot of humor as well, and it's and humor that's played, straight, but is just so genuine that you can't help but find the laughter and the absurdity.
Mm-hmm. Colin Farrell's great in this movie. What I love about Barry's performance as Dominic is just, it's kind of for the same reasons why y'all like Farrell as Pádraic, is his life that he brings. Why he's such an innocent character, while he may have some bad stuff about him, he's so inviting, so warm. I love the humor that Keoghan brings to the role, the childlike mannerisms, how he may have a lot of issues at home, but still when he goes out, he's just trying to find people who want to give him attention, want to bring him life, bring him love because no one gives him that. When he goes home, issues. He tries to talk to people around town. They ignore him. The only person he has is Colin Farrell. And I just love the dynamic they have between each other. But I think this whole ensemble is great. We didn't mention either Brendan Gleeson or Carrie Condon, who both deliver, I think, some of their best work in their individual careers. But I mentioned this before. The best thing about this movie is its screenplay. We all know Martin McDonagh got his start on the stage, but he now has expanded his craft into the film. He continued to put out great scripts. That's always been my favorite part about all of his movies. And on a rewatch, this script is one of my favorites of the year. The first time I watched it, I thought it was so boring. It was so lifeless. There was nothing to be really brought to the table. But this time, I feel like I got it. I got the angles he was going for about betrayal, about growing over time, about how you can love someone or something, but no, it's not the best for you, and how you have to expand and grow as a person, whether that is Carrie Condon's character have to leave Inisherin to find a new life for herself, or if it is Brendan Gleeson's character, be like, hey, I'm getting older. I haven't accomplished anything with my life. Even though you're really fun to talk to and I've known you forever, I got to find stuff on my own. So Arno, what was your favorite part about the script?
I think the best way to understand the script is to look at another very world-renowned and famous Irish playwright of Samuel Beckett. And I think this is a film that feels to me, and I mean McDonagh, I think to me is a contemporary, more accessible version of Samuel Beckett. And in the way he plays with the absurd. So Three Billboards to me is a film, about a woman trying to find redemption and reconciliation after her daughter's disappearance. A film that will not move a single, that doesn't move the needle as far as the investigation and as far as finding her daughter goes. Nothing is solved by the end of the film. And Banshees, same thing. We have a broken friendship, which we don't really know the context of all that much. And by the end, the friendship is still broken. And it's just, it's characters trying to understand the situations that they are in, but that they cannot grasp the absurdity of life. That is kind of and that is why he does tragicomedy so well, is because the absurd is essentially, and I'm paraphrasing from a quote I saw somewhere, the absurd is tragic for those who feel, and is funny for those who think. And that is absolutely what Banshees is. This is a hilarious film that in the last 30 minutes, you can't help but have your Adam's apple in your throat the whole way. Or at least that was the experience for me.
I am not as in love with this script as everyone else is. I think it's very clever. I think it's very biting. I think it has some great moments. But to me, I think that some of the characters don't 100% feel like they serve their purpose. When I left the film the first time I saw it, I was shocked that everyone was talking about Carrie Condon. I thought she did a good job, but I didn't see anything in her character that really stood out. And this time I felt that even more, where I was like, why is this the performance that everyone's talking about? I just feel like her character is there. She kind of comes in to serve a purpose of going to talk to Colm and bridge that gap between Pádraic and Colm because they can't talk. She felt like she served more of a structural purpose than a character purpose. I didn't feel like she was as developed as I wanted. She was just kind of there and was the good guy throughout. Same with Dominic. His character felt less like a full character to me and more like someone who just was there because Pádraic didn't really have anyone else to talk to through the film. He was there kind of to serve the purpose of dialogue fodder, I guess, in a way. I mean, I think Barry Keoghan does a great job with that. So does Carrie Condon. They both do a very good job with what they were given. I just don't think that their characters were as developed or as well thought through as a lot of other McDonagh characters that we've seen in the past. In Three Billboards, there's so many very strong characters that serve their purpose, even if they're not really big characters. And here, it felt like Colm and Pádraic's story with a few other people thrown in that didn't really feel as though they had the same amount of depth to them.
Interesting points. I definitely see the angles that you're coming at today. While I don't necessarily agree with all of them to a T, I can see the points about Carrie Condon. I think I can't speak for everyone because she was not my favorite, but from what I've heard, it seems like most people resonate with her because of what her character represents. maybe more say than physically what she's doing, but I think she is doing great, like you were mentioning. Just I also have some of the same issues with her. Like I don't see where she would be the standout here compared to some of the other ones that we've mentioned so far. One thing I think we all can agree here is when I rewatched this with my grandma, the first thing she mentions is how beautiful everything looked, whether it's the cinematography or, to me, the costumes pop, because like Carrie Condon's character wears that bright yellow dress when she goes out, or maybe it was a coat, and then the score is so lush, and the editing isn't like, overtly fancy, but it's pretty smooth. It's well paced. This is, I think, the shortest Best Picture nominee, or the next shortest, depending on how long Women Talking is. They're both about an hour 50,
second shortest,
hour 55-ish. But yeah, this movie is just beautiful, and I know the screenplay may not hit for all of us as it does, but I feel like we all can agree it's got some nice vibes to it. Matt, what do you think about that?
I love the score. But on this watch through, I mean, I'm very taken by just the greenness and the color palette that comes with shooting in the Irish countryside. It looks stunning. That said, there was something weird this time. Maybe it was my TV, but it almost looked fake at times. Like there was a separation between the sunsets that were happening and the sunlight and the characters that almost made it feel like it was shot on a green screen. I don't think it was, but something about it looked like weird to me. But I mean, overall, music, stunning. Costume design, great. Production design, fantastic. The details they put into Colm's house is just stunning. So well done.
Regardless of how you feel about how it looks, I think this is an excellent use of location. This is a film about small town life in the early 20s, if I'm not mistaken, or early 10s.
1923 was, I think, the
1923, right? Early 20s. So and I think that the locales that they chose and this kind of field, how there is a town center that's located, next to the pier, and then there's these houses along these kind of stone walls that are all very, remote from each other. And this film is so thematically rich that you can say that it's about this and that and this, and then you can list like 12 different things. I think it is in large part about small town life. And about how routine breaks and what happens when routine breaks. This is a film where our central character's routine breaks in part because the supporting characters are not well within their small town, in the sense that small town life can be charming, can be fruitful in some way. You are in a blissfully ignorant space that doesn't really, where you don't really see the things that are going on outside of your place, and you're really only worried about the conflicts within your kind of designated space. But then you have a character like Colm, who kind of, in an epiphany of sorts, realizes that he wants to maintain his ambitions and his ego. Then you have a character like Siobhan, where her whole life she has been in this town that is, that isn't giving her the full potential that she is able to meet and to develop her intelligence. And you have a character like Dominic, who, in this kind of tragic way, is is kind of imprisoned in this small town where he is just where he's not able to flourish. And then in the middle of all that, you have Podrick, played by Colin Farrell, that is just perfectly comfortable in his routine. But because the other characters around him want to break that routine, he will be placed a little bit in their shoes, in the sense that he will be in a space where he is unfulfilled, and he will have to question himself, question his life, question his livelihood. There's an incredible there's a very little detail in the screenplay where Colin Farrell kind of mentions, where it talks about Colm and tries to speculate about why he's acting the way he is. And he said, well, if he's depressed, he could just keep it to himself. And that's something, I love these kinds of lines,
like
because they're disconnected. Do. Yeah, they're disconnected. This film literally takes place 100 years ago. They're completely disconnected by the way we think in this current day and age. We would not think that way. We think we have to treat this depression, go to therapy, blah, 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 blah. If Colm was depressed, of course. Here, he's just, small town life is simple. If you're depressed, keep it to yourself, and let's just move on.
Or go
and
to the
I
priest
love these little
and talk
comments
about your despair, right? Because that keeps coming back.
Yeah.
He goes to the priest. How's your despair? It's been better.
Exactly, and I wanted to mention that as well because and you know all that to say that the location and everything that came into that, whether it's the production design or the you know, the colors and whatnot, I think really sells the themes, that theme of the film.
Yeah, bouncing off of that, since we just talked about themes a little bit there, Matt, what do you think are some of the main themes that you take away from Banshees? Because to me, the biggest thing I got was the whole dynamics of what a friendship or relationship can be and how it can mean one thing to one person, but a completely different thing to another. And like I mentioned before, how you can love something but still have to leave, like Siobhan does with Patrick, and just the tragedy that can come with caring, because obviously Dominic cares about everyone around him, but clearly no one's really showing that care, at least to him, because even though Siobhan enjoys his company, doesn't want to be his partner, and Patrick isn't the idol that Dominic makes him out to be, so then it's left ambiguous, but you can probably assume that Dominic took his own life.
Well, I think from what I got from Dominic's character, it seems like the reason that he did take his own life, because when he's at the lake, notice when he leaves, he says, well, I should go and do that thing I was going to do over there, and he was going to jump in the lake. You know, he's lost all hope because he's not going to get Siobhan. His father's going to keep relentlessly beating him. And the only person in town that he thought was a good person who cared about him has become a bad person. The last conversation that he had with Pádraic before that scene where he jumps in the lake and kills himself, that's the scene where he tells Pádraic that it was a really rotten thing for him to do, to tell that foreign exchange student that his parents had died. He says that's maybe the meanest thing I've ever heard. He just lost faith that the one person he thought was looking out for him is a good person. And I think that's why he took his own life. But ultimately, what I think that this movie comes down to, Arno, I 100% agree with you. It is about the monotony of life in a small town and the way that routine shapes and what happens when people try to break that routine.
With all that being said, Banshee snagged 9 Oscar nominations. This is one of the front runners we have for Best Picture. So realistically, though, what can we see this walking away with? Is this going to be like an Irishman that gets all these nominations but wins nothing? Or do we see this at least grabbing screenplay, maybe a supporting actress, and maybe something else?
Here's the thing. I think that in this current, as we are recording right now, and I would predict this is bound to continue in the next few weeks, I think Banshees is and Everything Everywhere All at Once are the two frontrunners. And I don't even think it's a 3-horse race. I really think it's a 2-horse race right now. I think it's between these two. And one of the stats I believe the most in, as far as predicting a film to win Best Picture, is that the film needs to win either one of the screenplay prizes or a director prize. This is not a director film. This film absolutely 100% unequivocally needs to win original screenplay. And I think that the fact that McDonagh lost this one for 3 billboards gives him a little bit, even if it's not said explicitly, it gives him an underdog and a overdue narrative. And this is something that I think a lot of people will feel. Martin McDonagh is one of these directors that has been writing excellent screenplays, despite what you have to say about it, Matt. The performances of this film are very, very strong, and there's a lot of buzz around a lot of different performances. It needs to win at least one. It doesn't need to win 2 the way 3 billboards did, but it needs to win at least one. And I think McDonagh is one of these. And again, unlike what you have to say, Matt, I think he is one of the greatest character writers that we have right now, and these characters are no exceptions.
I can definitely see that. Now, I also think that it would need to perform extremely well at BAFTA. And it will perform extremely well at BAFTA. It's going to take actor, supporting actress, screenplay, and picture at BAFTA. But, Arno, do you think that will hurt it in the end because of the correlation or the anti-correlation between the Oscars and BAFTA?
Everything Everywhere All at Once needs to win BAFTA for Banshees to win the Oscars. And I don't think that is 100%, I don't think that is 100% not happening. I think there is still... BAFTA has done weirder things before. And, we think, they'll go with the British / Irish film. Of course they'll go... You never know. Maybe they just really love Everything Everywhere All at Once. They have nominated it a lot too. And then now we would really ask ourselves, wait a second, this isn't a Nomadland year. Is Everything Everywhere All at Once really winning Best Picture now?
So why we normally see this split between BAFTA and the Oscars is because normally it's because of the preferential ballot. The film that gets the most #1 votes is going to win BAFTA. The film that's going to perform the best on the preferential ballot isn't usually the one that gets the most #1 votes right off the bat. That's why we see that split. Something like Power of the Dog is going to have a lot of #1 votes, but might suffer a little bit below that, where Coda might get a ton of 2s and 3s. That's why we see that split happen. And it's really interesting that Banshees might win BAFTA while Everything Everywhere wins the Oscar, because the argument people keep saying is that Everything Everywhere won't perform well on a preferential ballot because it's got the tons of passion, but it might not have a ton of people loving it below that. It might just have like a ton of 1s, a ton of 9s. So I want to ask Arno, do you think that Banshees is going to perform well on a preferential ballot? Because watching it again, immediately my reaction was, this is so dreary, so sad, so downbeat. I have a really hard time seeing this just having the overwhelming first, second, third place votes because of how sad the film is and hopeless it feels.
Yeah, I guess to wrap us up here, I think at the minimum Banshees takes screenplay. Unless Banshees essentially drops off a cliff in these coming weeks, I think that this is its award, as you mentioned, Arno, for not a makeup for 3 billboards, but be like, hey, we need you in the club here. This is your time. And there's other places where Everything Everywhere can win above the line. It can win director. It can win actress. It can win supporting actor. I don't really think Banshees can win supporting actress, and actor I think is very possible. I just don't have my cards on at the moment. So to me, y'all were kind of saying the stuff about BAFTA, and that kind of made me rethink my stuff a little bit, because I think by what you're describing, Everything Everywhere All at Once should then win BAFTA. It's going to get the most #1s. And then Banshees is a movie that can get a lot of 2, 3s, 4s, maybe not as many 1s, while Everything Everywhere can be a lot of 1s, but a lot of 5s, a lot of 6s, as Matt said, a lot of 9s maybe. So I think it'll be very close at the end of the day. I think these are easily 1A, 1B, and I think there's a pretty big gap. And then that's when you get the movies that could see some sort of crazy overperformance, like an All Quiet, like a Maverick, like a Tar, like an Elvis, like a Fablemans, and then everything else is not a chance at all. And I think that's your kind of groupings, but still, I think the top 2 are all the way up here, and then there's some like here, and the rest are all down here.
Banshees might not get a lot of #1 votes, but nobody hates Banshees. Mm-hmm. Some people hate Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point. But at the same time, does Banshees have the same passion? And passion doesn't matter. But this feels a little bit to me like Parasite versus 1917.
Fair enough.
Although no one hated Parasite. No one hated Parasite.
But with all that being said, everyone, let us know where you would put Banshees on your personal preferential ballot. Are you one of those few people that would put it at #1? Or are you one of those random people that hate this? You put it at number 10. This is the bottom of the barrel.
Or you don't even hate it, but like Dylan and I, might be your number 8, might be your number 9. For me, this is my number 9 on a ballot.
It's right now my number 8, but I still have to do my rewatch of Tar, so that could either go up or down. But it was number 10 before I rewatched it, so it is on its way up.
It's my number 2. It's my number 2. This is a masterpiece. See, do not let these guys deter you from thinking so.
That's the beauty of a preferential ballot. You put all of us together, and we're at like a solid 5 out of like the 5th place slot, and then you put everyone else, and who knows where we'd be at. But until next time, my name is Dyl.
My name is Matt. That is Arno, and this is Fantasy Filmball.